Yeah, I know it's been a couple weeks, but give me a pass, will you? Just had to survive a week-long ice winter storm here in Texas. Wasn't pretty, because we ain't built for that here. Huh. So getting to you a little bit later than what I originally planned, but back like I left something, nonetheless, with another one short of half a dozen for that head top. So let's go. Plenty to talk about, so let's get right into the proceedings this evening. Starting off with number one, the new Jack. All right, we know what the deal is. Kellen Moore's the new OC, and look, I'll be straight up with you. I wasn't over the moon about it initially, mainly because he wasn't really in my top 5. Maybe he was around 5 for new hires, but I know what you're thinking. Craig, how could he possibly have been on your list in the first place when he wasn't available? Well, it was no secret that there were whispers that he was going to be on the market, and it's possible he and the Cowboys were going to part ways. And it happened. So I just kind of penciled him in. That's how it happened. And one of the reasons why I wasn't really excited about it was because I was thinking back about some of the Cowboys' losses in bigger moments, the fact that they've been a contending team for a few years, and I just always associated them falling on their faces due to play calling. That was until I went back and watched 6 or 7 games from this past season. A few with Mr. Dak Prescott, and about 3 or 4, Rush started 5 games, like 3 or 4 Rush's games. Came to realize that, Dak might want to invest in some LASIK surgery. I don't know what this dude was looking at. I was seeing instances where he was missing guys crossing through zones in open windows. He wasn't seeing them at all, or he was so impatient that he wouldn't allow them to cross into windows. Like there were a couple times where CeeDee Lamb would get in between 2 linebackers or split the safeties. It would take a minute because CeeDee's not the fastest guy in the world, but he'd get there, and either Dak would miss him completely or dump the ball off into the flat too soon, or in some instances throw in the coverage where maybe 2 defenders were lurking. I have no clue what his eyes were focused on, but whatever. It really wasn't Dak. And if you see a guy take Cooper Rush is 36 years old, have him come out there and win 4 out of 5 starts, and have his first loss as a starter come against the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles, and you gotta give that dude some credit. He's got some really good game within his systems. Some things I really like, including the use of multiple tight ends, getting both of his running backs on the field at the same time, really mixing things up. I mean, he could do some things better with some of his personnel packages and play calling, but I like the idea of taking the same play, running it out of different sets, or even in the same set, having multiple options. And I mean, to me, that's just kind of like baseline OCing, just allowing yourself to be multiple in that way. I don't think it's really super duper clever. I mean, there's a simplicity to what it is he does, but it's effective because a lot of times they were executing it really well, and he was doing a really good job at exposing whether or not defenses were in man and zone and playing off of that and giving Dak options based on what the defense was doing. Now, did Dak always succeed in making the proper calls or adjustments based on those defenses? Well, definitely not in the clutch, but enough to where he looks better than what he actually is. Because, Dak's not a top tier quarterback by any means. And that should tell you something. If good old Kellen was able to make something out of that and have it appear with smoke and mirrors almost to be that he was coaching an elite blue chip top of the market quarterback, then think about what he could do with a guy who really is. Something to consider. All right, right off of the back of number 1, straight into the dooski. Watch your 6. This is directed towards Mr. Brandon Staley. Folks, we're all old enough to remember Kellen Moore being a name in the coaching cycle a year ago. Lots of people were looking to potentially take him off of the Cowboys' hands. And I don't remember why that didn't work out. When you kind of take a 10,000-foot view of the Cowboys and their coaching situation and ownership, and how Jerry likes to meddle and potentially being handcuffed by Mike McCarthy and his antiquated way of thinking when it comes to offense. No disrespect to you, Mike, but it is what it is. I would have wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, but a team that was contending, potentially on the rise, maybe a more attractive option to stick around and see what goes on there, and then maybe even potentially, if Mike screws up, he can get elevated. Well, that didn't work out. Clearly there were some differences when it came to philosophy where offense was concerned, so he jetted. Now he's the Chargers OC. And Brandon, I get what you're trying to do here. Young, innovative, with experience, makes sense, probably relates better to Herbert. Can't say the same about Joe Lombardi. So, yeah, it works. But keep your head on a swivel, my man, because what you may have unknowingly did was lobby for your potential replacement to be brought on board. Because if you screw the pooch this year, there's your answer. Just elevate more. And it wouldn't be an accident, or really a coincidence per se, when you look at the landscape of the NFL and the two teams that are currently playing in this weekend Super Bowl with offensive-minded head coaches. It's the thing in the NFL, man. Those are the guys who seem to be making it towards the end and holding up a Lombardi come the finale of the season. So I don't think that's a mistake at all. I'm just saying, dog, do what you got to do this year so you can stick around. It'd be really easy, or easier this year, to clip you in year 3 if things aren't going well in the middle of the season, and have Kellen take over the reins, or wait till the end of the year and do it then. I like Staley, for different reasons. Am I his biggest fan? No. Have I ever been his biggest fan? I mean, he was like 1B for me. Y'all all know I was a Daboll guy, but honeymoon's over. So get it in high gear, man, because there's a new hot chick from the high school across town, and you are no longer everyone's dream date to the prom. So get it figured out, man, or it could get late early. Yeah, bro. This is kind of leaning more towards a Kellen Moore themed 5, but it's the hot topic, so just go with it. Don't fight it. Number 3, hanging with Mr. Cooper. Just wondering, what is the backup QB situation going to be next season? I don't think Chase Daniel's going to be back. I think that was more of a Lombardi thing, coming over with knowledge of the Saints scheme, helping Herbert get acclimated to it. And I don't know what's going to go on with Easton Stick, and honestly, I don't care. What I do know is I don't want any parts of that 3 active QBs thing ever again, because why? Hopefully Kellen helps to do away with that nonsense. But I'd be perfectly fine with Cooper Rush coming over. I mean, yeah, he would be help additionally for Herbert to learn the new system. I'm not sure how much changes. Could be a complete overhaul, in which case it might be helpful to have him there. But also someone who we see can be successful in the system in the event Herbert, I'm not even going to say that out loud, in the event that he has to take any snaps in the regular season for any reason whatsoever. Hopefully that would be because we're just beating the crap out of some teams and you want to get Herbert out early. You hear that, Brandon? Get Herbert out early in meaningless situations. And then you have a viable option behind him. And, not that much of a fall off because, he can at least be serviceable and keep the offense chugging along. So that's my hope. I'd be good with that. Don't know how y'all feel about it, but just my 2 cents. For all my hip hop heads out there, particularly those who are 80s babies and familiar with the Cash Money Records era, number 4, run for it, run for it, run. Do I expect the Chargers to be this 50-50 balanced team on offense because Kellen's coming over and that's what was going on in Dallas? Absolutely not. Because again, like I said before, he's probably pressed to run the ball more than what he actually wanted to. When you decide you're going to pay Zeke Elliott before your quarterback, and still don't understand the logic behind that. You got to make that make sense, even though it doesn't. And I'm sure Jerry told Mike, hey, make sure Zeke gets X number of touches. Now, ironically enough, Tony Pollard was the better back, much more explosive, more productive. Zeke was more of a short yardage dude, probably red zone goal line dude, but you don't want to pay a running back that much bread to be a role player per se. And Zeke ain't exactly a spring chicken. Not a lot of tread left on those tires. So, I mean, to have him be a workhorse wasn't going to work out. And if you ask me, I think Pollard was probably Kellen's favorite of the two. But what he did do was a really good job at getting both of them involved. How I think that works for the Chargers, look, if we can get it more 60-40, sweet. I ain't trying to see any of this 70-30 crap, though. I'm over that. I keep saying this over and over and over again. You want to be a competitive team? If you're one that finds your way into the playoffs via the wild card route and you have to go on the road, you have to play in some inclement weather. If you think slinging the ball around 40 to 50 times a game is going to be the way to get it done, I got some news for you. You'll lose that battle. You'll lose that battle 9 times out of 10. And my hope is that you take some of these draft picks that you've used in the last few years on running backs. Joshua Kelly played much better last season. He's still a more number 2 guy. I don't ever think he'll out carry Eck, really ever. But I would like to see a nice divide of carries between both he and Spiller, where you get Isaiah more involved, because I'm telling you right now, outside of Eckler, Spiller is the most natural runner on the team. I'd say his vision is probably on par with Eckler's. We just haven't had a chance to really see it in the games yet, but I mean, in the few carries you've seen, like even in preseason stuff, you've seen him make a little something out of nothing where the blocking was really bad and he still ended up making 2, 3, 4 yards out of it because he has really good footwork. You've seen him on Twitter, I believe, social media and other places, practicing his footwork. And yeah, dude can move. And out of some of the backs in last year's class, he was a top 2 or 3 when it just came to footwork. I'm not talking about overall athleticism, speed, power, any of that, but just footwork and vision. I think he was, and I mean, I think he graded out that way, probably number 3 amongst the top 5 or so backs. So just to see him be able to get an opportunity next season to mix it up, maybe steal some carries away from some of your number 1 and 2 guys. Find some situations where you could use Eckler and get him more out in space in a slot role, more of a satellite back, where you're incorporating Kelly and Spiller as your primary backs in those particular systems, not necessarily systems, but sets. And take some of the wear and tear off of Eck, man. Throw as many backs out there in a rotation that can be effective as possible. It'll work out, I promise you. It's not anything you're going to regret. And whoever has the hot hand, keep them rolling. But get 2 of those guys on the field at the same time, whatever combination you want. If you want to make it a little less obvious, you can throw Spiller out there because he's probably the better receiver between both he and Kelly, and a little bit more versatile in that way. So you got both he and Eckler on the field at the same time. There's a lot you can do with that. And I'm pretty sure Kellen Moore can dial up some nice plays because we saw him do it in Dallas. So I've got no concern about that whatsoever. But let's just get it a little bit more balanced, and I believe that they will. So enough of me rambling about that. On to the next. Kind of wishing I didn't save this for last because now that I think about it, it's not really ending things off on a high note, but I digress. It is what it is. Number 5, pay the piper. as you guys all know, Chargers are solid 20 plus mil over the cap, which means there are going to have to be some interesting decisions made here. Sure, some restructures will help, but there exists a reality where maybe at least one of your favorite Chargers could potentially no longer be on this roster, headed elsewhere in uniforms that none of us could imagine would ever be the case. Y'all all know the names. I mean, Keenan is the first one that comes to mind. We've all heard the stuff. Saw the Garrett bomb that got dropped in the Discord, so you know what that's about. And just in general, man, when you pay Mike Williams what you paid Mike Williams, you knew this day was going to eventually come. I mean, it's going to be a sooner than later thing. And y'all know how I felt about the Joshua Palmer draft. I initially thought that was in preparation for Mike Williams potentially walking, but when Williams performed very well that first year in that Lombardi scheme, then it became a scenario where he could potentially, once it was a reality that Mike was going to get paid, he could be the eventual Keenan replacement, because Palmer's kind of that middle of the road between the two of them. He's somebody who can be a contested catch guy and runs pretty good routes, but he's not necessarily a blazer. I mean, who is in the Chargers receiving core? But I don't know. Outside of that, you got 27 mil going to Khalil Mack next season. Huge jump. He's getting paid, $8 this year for the restructure that he had already done. And you got Vato, who played out of his mind towards the back end of the season. And I'm not sure they thought they were going to get that out of him, but not trying to let him go right. And got guys like Kyle Van Noy, who seem to be hinting potentially at maybe not coming back, because maybe he feels like he's priced himself out of the Chargers range because he started to come on later in the season as well. And there's Morgan Fox, who's definitely played his way into a new contract. But with Foxy, I think he knows where his bread is buttered, because his best years have now come under Staley. I don't think that's a coincidence. You might just want to figure out a way to make that work. Got to decide whether or not you're bringing Trey Pipkins back. There's a lot. Eddie Mack, Mr. Ed McGuire in that office, crunching away at the numbers, moving those decimals around, making it happen, man. I'm not going to get too up in arms about anything or speculate too much, because we see money get moved around in ways all the time with the cap. I still don't know how the Eagles are doing what it is they're doing. One of the main things is they don't have to pay Jalen Hurts very much money right now, so that is what it is. But outside of that, I'm not going to fret about it too much. It's just a lot to get done here, and there are going to have to be some cap gymnastics that get played over the next few weeks and months. You can go ahead and factor in the money that you need to have to pay your draft picks. So at this point, it's just interesting to see how the Chargers are even going to get to breaking even before they can discuss what to do to get significantly under the cap to make any real moves whatsoever. And you got to decide, like I said before, who you're going to bring back, all that fun stuff. Glad that's not my job. I just got to sit here and watch. But man, it would really hurt my heart to see Keenan go somewhere else. But it's a business, man. And if you're serious about putting together a contending team, all of these things have to be taken into account. I honestly, more than anything, would love to see the wide receiver core inclusive of a dynamic receiving threat with every other receiver that exists on the roster being there for at least 1 year. I want to see what that looks like just for 1 year. Give me that. But as Chargers fans, we very rarely get exactly what it is we want, no matter how much sense it makes. And before I go down this deep, dark hole of depression any further, I'm going to end it there. So, y'all, thanks for rolling with me. I really appreciate it. Again, I know I've been gone for a couple weeks. Lots going on. And I'm back, though. So we'll be here throughout the off season. always with another 5 of them things, because that's what I do. I love y'all. And I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. Enunciate, Craig. So until the next one, man, y'all take it easy. I'm going to go watch LeBron break this record, because at this point, I think he's sitting at about 20 points, and it's only the second quarter. He's going to get it. Kareem in there looking really pissed off. You know he hating. But it's over for you, man. It's time. The Kang is coming for his crown. So do that. Let's get it. But again, y'all probably don't even care about basketball like that. Anyway, till the next one, take it easy. I'm me, you're you. Many thanks once again. Catch y'all on the next one. Gone.